Well, from Barcelona, visiting scholar at Carnegie Europe, Mark Pierini joins us live. Thank you for having us. Thank you for being on the programme, Mother. Is this visit from President Recep Tayyip Erdogan likely to repair the very strained relations between the two countries?
I would say this is a sweet and sour visit, and at best it will represent the beginning of an improvement in relations, but it is not in itself an improvement. Of course, the sweet part for President Erdogan is that the visit takes place and that it has been put at the level of state visit with all the pomp and circumstance that we've seen on your screens. So that in itself, especially in a country like Turkey where you have no more freedom of the press, well, you present these images and the president is with the German federal president, the federal chancellor, state banquet tonight, and so on and so forth. So that's a sweet part. Of course, in Germany, there is a very strong interest, as was just said in your report, to have good relations with Turkey because of Syria, because of the refugees, and because of the economic situation and the fact that Turkey has become a very big market. The sour part of the visit is, of course, that Germany had to accept earlier today that a prominent exiled journalist, Jan Dunda, would be removed from the press room. It was not authorized, and there was a threat from the Turkish side that the press conference would be cancelled. A protester was also removed from the room. So this is, Turkey's undemocratic habits imported in Berlin. This is not looking good for the German government. More importantly, I think, is what is going to happen on rule of law in Turkey. In the pre-visit comments by the presidency, by the chancellor herself, by the vice minister for foreign affairs, it was made very clear that human rights in Turkey, rule of law in Turkey, will be on the agenda and has been on the agenda by now. So you have two aspects there. You have the symbolic and the systemic aspect. The symbolic aspect is, of course, freeing some of these German Turks in prison, freeing people, prominent cultural activists like Osman Kavala. We'll see if that happens or not as a result of the visit. What is more complicated, more important, but fundamental for the future relation is what happens on the systemic side. Is rule of law to be improved in Turkey? A lot of elements of rule of law have disappeared under the state of emergency in the past 2 years, and that is bad for business. German and European business need a stable rule of law environment. They need reliable economic justice, otherwise they just cannot operate. So that is where the constraint is for President Erdogan. His economy is in a dismal state, and to be fixed, it needs improvement, serious improvements on the rule of law side.
Now, let's just take a look at Germany. We've seen the rise of the far right in the country. There are 3 million Turks living in Germany. How do they now view Erdogan in light of this rise of the extreme right?
I think the Turks and German Turks, 3 million plus in Germany, they are about equally split between pro-Erdogan and anti-Erdogan, like the public in Turkey. The difference between the two segments is that the AKP is extremely well organized to mobilize these people in favor of Erdogan, and you've seen, you've shown images of these demonstrations. So the danger for a fully democratic country like Germany is that suddenly German Turks are used by President Erdogan and his apparatus as political actors. And of course, as we have seen so many times in the past few years, autocratic regimes like Turkey reinforce the extreme right in Europe. They hate each other, but they resemble each other in many cases. And this is the case between Turkey and Viktor Orban in Hungary, Turkey and AfD in Germany, or Geert Wilders in the Netherlands. The extremes end up reinforcing each other. And this is where the political evolution in Turkey is not just a sorry state of affairs for Turks, but it is a danger for European democracy, and this is what we have to watch very carefully.
Okay, Marc Pierini, thank you very much for that. Marc Pierini there speaking to us from Carnegie Europe.